Good afternoon, Joe Sixpack. I hope you are doing well. I hope everybody is doing well in these tough times for our country and our area. We welcome you to our sixth pandemic episode of What's Brewing PA. I am in my house in Havertown. Joe Sixpack in his well-equipped bar over there in Roxborough. How are you today?
It's starting to thin out a little bit, unfortunately. Got to make it one of these liquor store runs. But I do have plenty of beer here.
Good. Well, and then we always start. By the way, fun show today. We're going to be joined by Big Five Hall of Famer Temple legend Mike Vreeswyk, who's a good beer guy who just kind of gave me an idea for us to do in the show. So we figured if he's given us the idea, we might as well have him on. And a good local brewer that I know you've come to respect.
Yes, John Companick, who is one of the owners at the Spellbound Brewery up in Mount Holly, New Jersey. It's a real fine brewery. Often is a little bit below the radar because we don't see their beers that much on the Philly side. But he's a great guy, and we've got a good conversation lined up with him.
Good. And when we do the show, we always like people to check in with what they are drinking. Of course, we're going to check in first with what we are drinking today. And I've got the newest from my place, Conshohocken Brewing Company. This is the Sabro Light Unfiltered IPA. You know, this is my favorite kind of beer. 6.3%. Got kind of a lemony scent to it. Sabro Unfiltered IPA. Combines a lot of Sabro hops, obviously, with a nice complement of El Dorado. Nice, juicy, tropical flavor to it. I get peach. I get coconut. Hey, drink up. This is what I love.
I was going to ask you about the coconut because those Sabro hops are pretty popular these days, and I know that there is a little bit of a coconut flavor in there. Usually pretty fruity. So I'm not sure if I've had very many beers with that. It's fairly new hop.
It is, and again, this one just came out last week. And by the way, let me just say that we went yellow today, so all the Conchi brewing places, the outdoor dining facilities are open this week, weather permitting, as I look out my window here. But very restricted dining, reservations only. We love people to get out. And we've started not just curbside service, but we've started delivery of all the beers with Conchi Express. Go to conchiexpress.com and you can get this good stuff at your house. What are you drinking today?
Okay, I've got a new one too. Brand new beer from a fairly new brewery in my neck of the woods in the Roxborough section from the Twisted Gingers Brewery, which is really a small corner brewery. It's in an old bar right on the border of Manayunk and Roxborough. And this one is called Meyer Light. I'm actually wearing their t-shirt. I had to buy one because I love the logos so much. This is Meyer Light from Twisted Gingers. It's a blonde ale, which is a style that I think, I like the style, but often it's just a beer that's sort of a mainstream kind of like intro beer for people who don't necessarily want to drink craft beer. They're bud drinkers or light beer drinkers, and they just want something. So the brewer makes a lighter beer for those people, sort of as a gateway beer. But that's how this beer is pitched, as a gateway beer for people who may not necessarily want craft beer. I think that's selling it short because I had a can of this earlier, and it is a light-bodied beer, and it's really refreshing, but there's a wonderful malt flavor to it. It carries it right through as a full-bodied, somewhat full-bodied, very flavorful, and a lot of character. It's more than just your typical light, run-of-the-mill blonde beer. I highly recommend it. And one of the reasons I liked it was because, as it says on the can, this pairs perfectly.
Oh, that's so great.
Grilling and chilling.
That's terrific.
It's lawnmower beer, really, in a lot of ways. And, we had talked about this as a theme for this week's show, was the idea that, there are certain occasions that are favorite times for us to drink beer.
We have. Just by the way, so to clarify, you're not a huge fan of blonde ales, but this one really steps up for you.
It's true. I've had a number of blonde ales, and this is an American blonde ale. There's a Belgian blonde ale that has a little bit more alcohol in it and has that yeasty character. This does not have those kind of spicy yeast notes. But I do like American blonde ale when it has more of a malt flavor, and this hits the mark in my opinion.
Let me tell you what some of the people who are watching us right now are drinking. Then we'll get into that thing we want to do. Michael Brzezinski is drinking Snow Cone Blue Raz from Kelly Green. I have no idea what that is. I don't know that I would like it.
They are making a lot of fruit beers at Kelly Green over in Pittman, New Jersey. Kelly Green as in the Eagles, Kelly Green.
I got that part. Jack Morris is drinking a Revelation Craft Brewing's Conan the Juice Man. I'm assuming that's a juicy IPA. And our friend Jeff Martin's having the Trogue. He says, Trogue's Perpetual IPA, homemade pizza, and what's brewing cannot be beat for a Friday. Appreciate that. Very nice. Michael Hull is having an Oscar Blues Slow Chili Lager. And Russ Hallam is having an Ocean Haze Hazy IPA from Opportunity Brewing Company. Good stuff. All right, let's talk about that theme because it is a lot of fun. And we're going to be joined soon by Mike Vreeswyk. But it is, as you said, you and I will drink beer anytime, any place. That's really true. Not a challenge.
That's true, pretty much. I like beer. I like the flavor of beer at any time, but there are certain occasions. And actually, Mike just showed up if you want to bring him in to talk about it.
Yeah, let's bring him in. It's his idea.
Okay. All right.
Let me introduce him while you call him up. Mike Vreeswyk attended Temple University from 1985 to 89, a 3-year starter. Finished his Temple career as the 5th highest scorer of all time, still on that top 10, by the way. Left school holding the 3-point record, every offensive record in the history of Temple University, and he carried that team, 1987-88, I believe, to the #1 ranking in the country for 9 weeks. You were the big star in that team, right, Mike?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. We had some pretty good players on that team.
They had a couple. He's been inducted into the Philadelphia Big 5 College Hall of Fame and the Temple University Sports Hall of Fame as well. And we know him to be a good beer guy. Mike, what are you drinking today?
Well, I'm real excited about this. I have been adhering to the stay-at-home order for the most part. It's been hard to get out, but this week I found myself in Westchester, moving my daughter out of college. And when in Westchester, you got to hit Levante. I have myself a Cloudy and Cumbersome.
Nice, very nice. Well,
good choice.
Drink up, cheer up, and yeah, you gave us this idea. Or at least I saw you posted on Facebook, which is where I saw it. You said you might have been inspired by somebody else, but it's kind of time and place for the perfect beer. I'm going first because I'm going to use up a couple of the good ones. This is when I love a beer. I love the arrive on vacation. Either you drive to the shore, wherever you're driving, or you take a plane, you get on the airport shuttle, you get to the hotel, you check in, you sit on the balcony of the hotel, and there's your first beer vacation. Mike, that's a special beer.
That is a good beer. And along that same theme, if you will, now, the next day or the following day, you're on the beach all day, you're in the sun, salt water, your skin is nice and tight. You walk up to your rental or the hotel or the house you're staying in, and you got to have yourself an outdoor shower beer, 100%, no question about it.
We did a whole show on this.
Right, but people think of shower beer as being at home, but the best shower beer is the one in your outdoor shower at the
Absolutely.
shore. No doubt about it. I actually had a house down the shore for a while, and I built an outdoor shower and made sure it had a place to put a beer when I built it because I knew that would be a high point of it.
All right, let's go around a couple of times. You go next, Joe.
Well, the one I was thinking about, and it's one of my favorite beers, is the first beer that you drink at a brand new brewery, one that you haven't been to yet. And to me, it's first of all, it's like, show me what you got. I want to know what kind of beer you're capable of making right out of the gate. And secondly, I have a bit of hope for that brewery that it's going to make something really good. So I have a lot of hope, but I want to see what you're made of. I want to see your chops.
It's good. It's a good one. All right, I'm going to go with the first legal beer with your dad, or in my case, with my sons. I got 2 sons. They're now both 30, over 30. But I remember, and I can't attest that it was the first beer they ever drank, but I remember both of them when they turned 21, taking them out, having a beer, kind of indoctrinating them into good beer. I think they pretended to know less than they did at the time, but to me, it was a special moment. Mike, you're up.
Yeah, that is great. My daughter is 20, so I'm looking forward to that in the next year, and then my son soon after that. Well, for me, I think second only to the outdoor beach shower beer. I've been fortunate enough to to play on a lot of good teams, and I'm talking even if it's a rec league and a men's league, that beer after a championship win, whether you're playing and now I coach a little bit, or even when you're coaching, there's nothing like that championship winning beer.
That's a good
Pretty good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we see professional sports teams tend to toast their victories with dreaded champagne, which I'll never understand. So along that same theme, among my favorite beers is, as a fan, as a total fan, is the beer you drink when you're cheering the team parading down Broad Street. Nothing better than that. The last one for the Eagles' victory, they actually screwed things up and came up Broad Street, I think it was. And I remember sitting in Reading Terminal at 9 in the morning, drinking a beer there because I was so pumped. It was a great fun day. And that first beer there was outstanding.
Well, if that's your standard, you've had 2 beers since 1983. By the way, let me just say, Rich Orner checked in. He said the first beer you have in a town when you're traveling, especially overseas, that is cool. You go to a new place that you've never been. You get something local. That's always fun. Katie Ann said, my favorite time of beer is the beer I drink sitting on the berm at spring training. That's a good one. When you go down to Clearwater, that area in the outfield where you sit up there, watch the game, drink a beer. That's a really good one. I'll read you a couple that our viewers gave us, and then we'll go back to Mike. Andrew Colligan, who's a good beer guy, says the pre-flight airport beer, especially during a vacation. That's a good one. Michael Wyndham says, just cut the lawn beer. The lawnmower beer is certainly one. He says, I also like the getting ready for a night out when you have to put on a suit beer. Okay, I'll go with it. Casey Gillespie says, I like this one, and I bet you guys can identify with this. The pre-wedding beer, running into friends you haven't seen in a while. I do like that.
That's a good beer, although typically I've had whiskeys in that case. So for some reason, people's got a flask or something.
Along those lines, Steve Godfrey said the groomsman beer, getting ready for a wedding, and he also said, here's one, the 19th hole beer. Yes, no?
I don't golf, so I can't really speak to it. But, one of the things that we're mentioning here is how important experience is to the enjoyment of the beer. It's not necessarily about the flavor of the beer. That 19th hole beer might just be, a light beer. Who cares? It's
time and place. Yeah, Mike, you're up.
Yeah, so, I came from a pretty big Italian family growing up. Sunday dinners were mandatory. I remember I would always see my mom would be cooking all day. She would have a glass of wine, and I've kind of sort of taken that over in my adulthood. I love Sunday dinner, and there's nothing like cooking on a Sunday and having a cold beer while things are preparing and you're getting ready to sit down for dinner.
Oh, that's a great one. George Cesarini says the relaxing at the backyard pool beer. That's a good one. Pam Hurst Hill says the pregame beer before dinner with the parents. Bill Heiger is sitting on the back of the porch at the end of a long day beer. Rich Stewart is drinking a Puddler's Row ESB. Thank you for that. Just a couple other fun ones that I want to read, and then I got to ask you something else, Mike. One person said, if I can find, Michael Buffer, the famous ring announcer who follows us, says watching baseball in August with a pizza beer. Yeah, watching any sport event with a beer is good. And let me just give you this one, if I can find it. Kai LP says, Subway beer on the way to a game. Don't know that I do that a
Nothing wrong
lot.
with that.
Okay.
Surreptitiously stowed in a brown paper bag, maybe, and hope you don't get kicked off.
Yeah, gotta be. And I can't find the name, but somebody said to me, and I wanted to give them credit, my first post-pandemic beer sitting in a bar with people I know.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Draft.
That'd be a good one. And Michael, while we have you, before we let you go, I know you're good friends with Coach Cheney. I love Coach Cheney. I know Joe Sixpack does. How's he doing?
Coach is great. You know, he's mind as sharp as ever. His players, we call them as much as we can. You know, we try to get him out. We have to sometimes swing by his house and actually remove him from the house, go have some lunch. You know, but when you talk to him on the phone, sharp as a tack, memory is better than anything I've ever, you know, anyone I ever know. He remembers things from, you know, from, the early 80s to right up on through to, you know, his last days of coaching. So Coach is doing well.
That's great to hear. Glenn and I had a great occasion to drink beer with him a few years back. You remember it better than I, Glenn, but
All right.
it was a great scene.
So here's the story. So every year with WIP, I do a food hunt. And before I really got involved in beer and being part of a brewery, I always liked beer. So one year, the food hunt was, what's the best beer made in Philadelphia? I think, Joe Sixpack, if you remember, the winner was Yards.
Might have been
Yards
IPA. It was one of the Yards. I can't remember which one. Philly Pale Ale, I think, actually.
I think it was. Anyway, Coach Cheney was one of our judges, and what we learned soon enough is Coach Cheney was not a fan of hoppy beers. You probably know this, Mike. He's a fan of?
Heineken. Yeah.
Yes. So as we're doing this thing, and Joe Sixpack was a judge, and we had like 6 or 8 judges, and as he's drinking it, he keeps going like, this is horrible. And I think the scoring was on a scale of 1 to 50. And you go like, this is a 3. And he was just killing everybody. But that did not prevent him from enjoying drinking it all, even as he complained. We're about 45 minutes into it, live radio. Joe Sixpack, he stands up and he says,
I'm drunk.
Yes, he did. And he was not shy about it, and he enjoyed the rest of the show, and we had a great time. Hey, Mike Vreeswyk, you're a local treasure. We really thank you for joining us, and take care out there. Our best to you and your family.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. We'll talk to you soon.
Great to see you.
All right, Joe Sixpack. Let's get to some of the local news that's been going on, and there have been some dust-ups related to kind of what's happening in the world with the protests, the Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd things, locally and nationally. What do you got?
Yeah, nationally, there was this bizarro thing involving a brewery called Steam Hollow Brewing. They're out, I think they're in the Midwest somewhere, I'm not sure. But one of their owners got onto Instagram or Facebook or something and went off on like some bizarro theory involving like the whole thing was a conspiracy involving calling George Floyd and saying he was an actor, and it was just bizarre. It was really bizarre what this posting was, because it came from her account and people knew who she was, and there was a huge reaction on social media to this, that people were like taking shots at the brewery. And it was actually kind of disgusting to read this, and it backed them down. They had to shut down their Facebook page and so on. The brewery's still around, but I think that they're being shunned basically because it was just a really off the wall kind of crazy thing to be saying.
Yeah, you can really hurt yourself on social media if you post the wrong things. And in fact, Evil Genius, which is a place that we know we like, this kind of came into their house.
Yeah, it was a little bit different at Evil Genius because one of their employees, this time it was their head brewer, posted on social media some anti-police comments, and was pretty strong in his opinions, let's just say. And there was a lot of backlash on that as well. So much so that the brewery ended up firing him, and they had to take down their social media pages over this. But then they printed a long, I don't know if it was really an apology, but it was certainly they pointed out what their real stance is about this whole racial issue thing, and in fact, the brewer himself apologized for what he had written. He's been around for a while. We'll see where he ends up.
Yeah, listen, everybody's entitled to his own opinion, and everybody is certainly welcome to do it. But there's a time and a place when you work for a business. If you start posting social commentary that is to the extreme, it's going to come back and visit itself upon you. I mean, I've seen it happen with athletes, certainly in what I do, and it's not. I'm sure the people at that brewery were not pleased with that. I'm going to interrupt just by telling you a few things that people are drinking. George Bono is drinking a stout with no name by Glasstown Brewery in Millville, New Jersey. Let's see. We're getting some people who are talking about sitting on the porch at the end of a long day beer, the pre-gaming beer with dinner with parents, the first $9/11 beer at the ball. Oh, dollar beer night. Sure. We got that. I'm a fan of dollar beer night. Okay, back to the news. Let's get some more stuff.
Well, I just wanted to point one thing out on that last news item, Glenn, and that is, this is the time to speak out, in my opinion. I think that it's, we don't want to see brewers and brewery companies not speaking because they're afraid of public backlash. I do think that it's time to take a stance and at least say where you're at on this issue. And so it's hard in the era of really hyper-vigilant social media followers to express an honest opinion without getting yourself trashed. And I feel for these people. So,
well, I feel for these people, but I also know that words have consequences.
It's true. It's true.
So everybody's entitled to his opinion, but what you say impacts how people feel about you one way or the other.
Right.
All right. Other news. The good news is we hope we are in the back end of the pandemic. As we said earlier, places are starting to open this weekend. Most Pennsylvania counties went yellow. The local ones went yellow. Outdoor dining is beginning. I'm driving all over. I'm seeing tents in parking lots, which to me is a very good sign.
Yeah, things are going to open up soon, it looks like. And
I hope the weather helps. Go ahead. You were going to talk about how some breweries.
I was going to say that there was a lot of worry about how many breweries were going to close, and we really haven't seen that many close. I know of none in the Philadelphia area that have closed because of the pandemic. Now, granted, it's only 10 weeks into it. We may see, another surge in the coronavirus. We may see, who knows? But at this point, they seem to have weathered the very beginning of it. And we're going to talk later on to John Companick from Spellbound about what they've done to do it. But I will say that some breweries have had some problems. And the one that was pointed out to me, to my good friend Weg, who is a viewer of our show, he pointed out that there is a venture fund out in Michigan that's behind the Hopcap brew pubs out in that section, that they filed for bankruptcy. And the reason was that their debt was just too big. They weren't making enough income, and they finally folded. And it sort of leads you to believe that if anybody's going to have problems through this, it's people who have high levels of debt.
Yeah.
So we'll see how these venture capital owned companies can proceed.
Well, you and I talked about this earlier on, and you said that it's really much more of a challenge for places that don't distribute outside the brewery. Places that have canning lines that I can go to the Wegmans or the Giant and I can buy the cans, or I can go to whatever beer store, are going to fare better than places that only sell on site. Have you seen that as a result so far?
Yeah, and not only that, but I think it's that they are doing curbside pickup, which it's a little hard to do with draft beer in growlers, and delivery, which has been a godsend for some of these breweries. There's been companies that have popped up that are doing deliveries. We're seeing stateside distribution now through delivery of some breweries. So a number have adapted, adapted by going to packaged products.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, Conchi Brewing started Conchi Express, and I will tell you, we were dramatically pleased with the results, with the interest over the first couple of weeks. All right, George Cesarini is enjoying a strictly for my grind Koish has style adroit brewing. I don't know what any of that means. Can you interpret that?
Adroit Brewing I'm familiar with, but I guess it's a hell of a name for a beer.
Where's Adroit Brewing out of?
I have no idea. I forget.
Okay. All right, there you go. Let me see. Bill Scott, never miss a show, guys. I'm drinking Hidden River High Towered Castles. Nice. Steve Flacco's having a Spellbound Peach IPA. And Joe Dawson, Joe Dawson's drinking what I'm drinking, which is the new Sabra. Good for you. All right, let's look at back of the news. One of the things that is helping companies during the pandemic, Monco Strong, you said really stepped up.
Right. We promoted Monco Strong earlier in the show, and they were providing grants to breweries to help them get through this. And this is really important because, the local politicians have been saying for some time how important it is to have a brewery in their community, how it promotes everybody's business. And so they've turned around, that is Montgomery County, and provided money to a number of Montgomery County breweries. I counted in their last report, I believe it's about 15 separate breweries in Montgomery County received grants totaling $250,000 to get them through this. So that's fantastic, I think, because a few years ago you would never have seen anything like that. It's wonderful that the county is backing up these breweries.
It is an amazing change in the culture, I think, over, you'll tell me how long, 5 years, 10 years, that breweries are considered an essential local business and a real, a gathering spot, a place that helps the economy and so on. When we did our shows up in Phoenixville, I really was impressed by that and how the government got it.
It's true. And I mean, it's what better way to, promote your town than have a name. In your case of Conshohocken Brewing, it not only promotes Conchi Brewing, but it promotes the whole town of Conshohocken. And right. I know that town is very proud to have you there.
Yeah. And there's Manayunk Brewing, as I'm sure if I thought about it, I'd come up with others, but there are others like that. So that is healthy. We're still waiting for our guest to come in.
Actually, John is ready to come in. We'll get him in here because he can speak exactly to this stuff that we're talking about in, if I can get it, there we go. Over in New Jersey, Spellbound Brewing is in Mount Holly, New Jersey, and one of two breweries there, and they've done so much to promote. We're going to get him here. Hopefully he'll...
All right, well, while you're working on him, I'll just tell you what some other people are drinking. Let's see. Bob Adams having 2SP Up and Out Hazy IPA. That's a nice beer. Robert Drummond is having a Drummond Brewing. I wonder if Robert Drummond of Drummond Brewing, that's his home brew. Cherry Bomb Cider, enjoy that. By the way, Adroit Brewing is out of Purcellville, Virginia. And there is our guest, John. How are you today?
John.
Hey, how's it going?
All right.
How's it doing?
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's been forever. My goodness.
Really?
You've been hiding out in your house for the last 6 months?
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But I actually switched between house, brewery. So not a bad thing.
I know where you are now. Your brewery now.
Wait, no, this is my house. You kidding? Oh, wait, I get them mixed up. It is weird how many times I actually will go to the brewery and I'll put my house key in the lock. I'm like, oh, I got to stop doing this. But yeah, how's it going?
It's going great, and we should introduce you again. This is John Companick, who's one of the owners at Spellbound Brewing in Mount Holly. He and Scott Redding and Mike Oliver are the owners there. I've known you for quite a while. I remember talking to you years ago, even before you opened up the brewery. You were a home brewer with Barley Legal, which is sort of like the feeding ground of brewers in the Philadelphia area. And
absolutely.
You've got a great operation over there in Mount Holly.
Hey, so thank you. All right.
And my doorstep. Tell us about this, and let's all crack one open together.
All right. I have mine in front of me.
All right. What do we got here?
All right. So the Altogether beer was basically a worldwide kind of project. There you go. Hopefully you like hops. Probably one of the hoppiest beers we've ever made. But it was basically a worldwide collaboration to really help people in the hospitality industry.
That's nice.
Like it? We like it.
That's really good.
It's our first New England hazy, juicy IPA we've ever done. We actually avoided it for a long time, and now we realize why so many breweries do it.
Wait, hold on. Let's back up a second.
Yeah.
As Joe Sixpack knows, this is my favorite style of beer. It is the second one I've had on the show today that is a hazy IPA. You avoided that style for what? Was it that you were avoiding success? You were avoiding good beer? What were you avoiding?
It was actually more a personal preference. Like we weren't huge fans of the style. And the reason being, there are a lot of breweries that do amazing ones. And sometimes like we can drink one, but then it starts to get over the top for us. So we do more traditional style. Well, not always traditional styles, but for us, we didn't love the style, and we don't want to be that brewery that's like, oh, we only brew what we love. But we kind of avoided it for a while, just because we also felt a lot of breweries the base beer of a lot of breweries wasn't the greatest. You could tell, like it would come through, it would taste flawed, and it's like, hey, let's just throw a ton of hops in it, and it'll fix it. So we tried to avoid it, just because we literally were at max capacity for most of our beers anyway. And we brew a very traditional IPA, which actually our number one seller is this straight up IPA. It's the way IPAs used to be. So we're old guys now. So it's like 10 years ago, IPA used to be something different than it is today. So now we get people that will come to the brewery. They'll be like, they don't even ask what our beer list is. They're like, what's the haziest thing you have? It's like, well, haze is not a flavor. So, and we used to say Hefeweizen, but that didn't work so well. So anyway.
Well, for a guy who was reluctant, I think you nailed it.
Well, thank you. So guess what? We're going to be doing more now. We actually
altogether is it's a collaboration. The recipe I think was made by Other Half up in Brooklyn.
Other Half, correct? Yes.
And they shared it as a way for so many different breweries to brew the same beer and then sell it to raise funds for hospitality workers.
Yes.
So first of all, do you have any feel? And I should say about 500 breweries, I think, nationwide latched onto this, and you're not the only one in New Jersey, right?
No, there were a lot of breweries. I don't have the complete list, but it was amazing how many breweries like this we thought was, okay, we're finally going to jump into this style of beer. We have a great recipe, great brewery. Obviously, they're well known, but we just thought it was a good way to actually be able to help the hospitality industry. So we went to the New Jersey Licensed Beverage Association. They actually have a fund. I have to look it up because I always forget the name. It's William G. Wellhoffer Scholarship Fund, or foundation, and basically it gives education and financial assistance to people in the hospitality industry in New Jersey. So we wanted to make it, when we do any event, anything that we do, when it comes to charity events, we try to make it as hyper local as possible. Like we keep everything in like really local Mount Holly, wherever we can. But this one we thought like, okay, we can go a little bit broader, and the response was phenomenal. Our store went down 5 times. Like we use a software like Square software, which a lot of people use. It literally, the store shut down 5 times trying to keep up with the orders. It was like, okay,
wow.
Like Glenn said, you know what, this hazy thing may be a thing for 5 years in a row.
Hey,
it's like,
but not only that, John, as we do the show, I always look at comments from people who are watching us on Facebook Live, and you're getting a lot of compliments here. Mike Monteleone says, Spellbound makes one of the only pumpkin beers I like. And Steve Flacco says, Spellbound makes the best IPA and pumpkin ale. I guess I got to come back in the fall and make sure I get some of that pumpkin beer.
Yeah, what the heck? We saved some of the pumpkin ale from last year. We like to keep verticals so you can come in like when it's pumpkin season. We'll literally have like 3 years running on tap just to mix it up. Some bourbon barrel aged version as well. Strangely enough, we actually have bourbon pumpkin growlers in our store right now. Just like we're like, you know what? Let's just open everything up. It's like, let's pour growlers of everything. And so we put them out there, and it's amazing how many people drink pumpkin ales year round. It is really crazy, but I'm a fan of the style. But again, I'm usually in the minority when it comes to, a June pumpkin beer. Although
it's getting good reviews right now. And somebody also said Spellbound oatmeal. This is Mike Brzezinski. Spellbound oatmeal raisin cookie. And the Brothers Dempsey say Spellbound's Palo Santo wood porter is awesome. People appear to like your beer, so that's a good thing.
Palo, there it is.
John knows I'm a huge fan of the Palo Santo Porter. It's one of my favorite porters. We've actually had it on the show a couple times, Glenn, and I just think it's a fantastic beer. We've had the beer at the beginning of the show that Glenn had was a Sabro IPA with taste of coconut, which is in that Palo Santo, you really pull a lot of coconut flavor out of that as well, it seems.
Yeah, it's actually amazing. There is no actual coconut in it. It's strictly from the Palo Santo wood. I don't know why more breweries don't use Palo Santo wood. I'm not complaining. There's us and one other really big one. Yes. Cease and desist. What? No, they were very nice about it. If you did buy the original cans, it used to be called Palo Santo Porter. Now it's called Porter Aged on Palo Santo wood.
Oh, okay. Good.
Market confusion. You got to be safe.
I got a feeling many of our listeners know exactly what you're talking about there. So
yeah, but yeah, they were great to work with, which we understand. We don't want to, we don't want lawyers and all that fun stuff like that. We just want to make beer. That's all we care about. And honestly, as you know, we got 2 medals at GABF for the Palo Santo, and but that was one, like both times we won medals, we were literally canning beer in the back, like myself, Mike, and Scott. We're sitting there and all of a sudden we're getting all these texts from people like, hey, congrats on the medal. We're like, for what? For where? What's going on? But the 2 years we actually watched the live ceremony, we got nothing. So what we now know is that we have to can beer while it's going on, and then we'll be good and we'll win something maybe again.
And just don't pay attention, right?
That is the main thing, I'll tell you. But
so you mentioned pumpkin beers here. It makes me wonder, do you think you're going to be up and running fully for visitors and such by the time pumpkin beers are ready to be drank?
Well, it's supposed to be, June 15th is when our governor said we can actually have people at the brewery. We can serve people. We're waiting for guidance. So we don't know exactly what we can or can't do. But basically, it's going to be outdoor seating only initially, limited capacity, social distancing, all that stuff like that. So we take every precaution just to make sure everything is good. And then we'll see where it goes from there. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to have indoor seating, because I'm just saying, like a day like today where it's absolutely raining, miserable. I did a couple curbside pickups, so that's why I look like I've been running a marathon in the rain. But yeah, it's miserable out today. So that's the thing. It's like, all right, it's great. We can have outdoor seating, but if nobody's going to sit outside, that's 0 sales. So, but yeah, so we're at least progressing to the point where it's going to be better.
I think people are so eager to get back out there that no matter whatever the weather is, if you got outdoor seating, they're going to be there. I live over in Delaware County, PA, and I get the sense that people are just really hungry to gather together. And I recognize the fear that it could spur a whole, second wave of this thing. But I think people are really ready to start to go out and get to their local brewery, get to their local restaurant.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've talked to some of the local businesses. Again, we're very active locally. And literally, I was at one place, we picked up food today, and they said that they're going to be opening on the 15th, and they immediately had like 30 or 40 groups that wanted to come in regardless. They just wanted to be out and do something different than sitting at home watching Netflix.
Yes, I've done enough of that. I've got some good shows, definitely good shows. I'll be discussing them tomorrow on the radio. But no, I think people are, and I'm one of the investors in the Town Tap. I will tell you, Joe Sixpack, reservation only, big time reservations this weekend.
Yeah, I imagine. I do wonder though, John, after almost 3 months of this, any lessons learned so far about, how, is Spellbound going to change at all in any way, the way it does business after all this? Well,
I can tell you from the get-go, the first thing we did, we knew that we're a 20-barrel brew house. We have 7 40-barrel fermenters, and we used to about a 50-50 split of canning. We have our canning line in-house. We would can half the beer, the liquid, and half of it would go into kegs. But immediately we stopped kegging. We haven't kegged the beer basically since the shutdown happened.
Yeah.
And all we've been doing is canning, which ultimately, obviously impacted sales. So literally all the bars and restaurants not serving beer means half of the liquid we produce was dropped off the table immediately, which we did pick up, give or take say 20% more in terms of can sales, but it still leaves that gap of how much liquid we would have sent out to bars and restaurants. Fortunately, our community and people that support us have been fantastic. We literally are, curbside pickup, et cetera, has been very helpful. And our tasting room sales are about even from where they were last year. But again, losing that much liquid that would go to bars and restaurants, it's been an impact. But back to your question, Don, some of the things we did, no matter how trivial, we installed all touchless devices in our bathrooms. Sounds stupid, but like things like that are going to help in the long run. But then just a lot of it's going to depend on the guidance that we get from the state of New Jersey, the alcohol beverage control, on what we can do. Obviously, plexiglass comes into play now, and like sealed containers, and is it going to be plastic or glass? We're waiting to hear, and hopefully it'll be after this weekend what we can and can't do. But yeah, we're pretty strict when it comes to, we follow the guidelines that are given to us to a fault. So we don't know right now, but in terms of the simplest thing I can say is we moved from doing kegs to cans.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that with the ABC, because they are tough with their rules. I mean, we've talked, Glenn and I have talked multiple times about the insanity, in our opinion, of their regs and the food issue and so on. So hopefully they'll come up and figure out how to, do right by brewers such as yourself.
Yeah, and thank you. It's amazing how different it can be from just, literally a bridge apart, and completely different from here to PA. So some things we like and don't like. We don't want to serve food. We'll leave that to restaurants.
Whoever thought that Pennsylvania would be like the innovative state, the modern state, but it is in this regard. And as we let you go, I will just tell you, I'm really enjoying this altogether collaboration. This is a really fine beer. You guys make good stuff. A lot of people who are following us now, Paul McDowell, Spellbound makes really good beer. George says Spellbound is one of my favorite breweries in Jersey. So you guys have a good image out there and a good beer. And thank you so much for joining us, John.
Thank you. Try some of this too. This will get you going. Cherry Belgian triple, 8.5%, and it tastes like cherry juice.
I think I gave mine to you, Joe Sixpack.
I may have to give you one back. No, we
Don't
have
worry.
a mail issue, John. But
Come in. We've got you covered. Thank you so much for having us on.
Thanks. Hey, before you leave, just a quick shout out. Name your brewer. We don't want to let that go past.
Oh, Megan Adams. Yes, she is fantastic. She's been with us for 2 years. I am not the brewer. I do small batch once in a while, very once in a while. It's been probably a year, but yeah, she is absolutely fantastic. We're thrilled to have her. She does everything from helping us can to brewing to she was doing everything today. So, and she brewed our Pilsner coming out soon.
Good. Looking forward to some nice lagers from you too. That's great.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
John,
John.
thank you so much.
Great
Hey,
to see you.
cheers.
All right.
Well, that's great. That was a great way to start the week. Joe Sixpack, before we go, I will just read you a couple more reviews of what people are saying. Mike Monteleone, who checks in every week, says, my goal now is to stay so pickled that nothing, not even the coronavirus, could live within me. Seems like a good plan.
Yeah, we'll check back with you on that one.
Yeah. Katie Ann says, my husband is enjoying a Tower number 4 by Forgotten Boardwalk. Is it Forgotten or Forbidden?
Forgotten Boardwalk there over in Cherry Hill.
Yeah, we've had their beer before. We had them as a guest one time before. Says, I'm enjoying my last MC5. Need to get more. Indeed, you do. Stephanie Rudowitz is having a Spellbound peppered bacon maple coffee porter. Ooh, was that in our care package?
I don't know. I have no idea, but that sounds a little bit like that Mexican stout we like so much.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Paul McDowell is drinking a Commodore Perry IPA from Great Lakes Brewing. Great Lakes Brewing is one of my favorites, and I know you like him as well. Sure. And George Cesarini says, hey, you guys are all we need. Well, that seems a fine way to leave it today.
Hey, absolutely.
You have any big plans over the weekend for you and Mrs. Sixpack?
Maybe mow the lawn this weekend. I'm not sure. We'll see. There's been a lot of rain, so my grass is going nuts.
Well, as we learned today, not that we didn't know it, mowing the lawn is a great occasion to drink a beer. So my sense is that you will probably do both.
One after the other, perhaps.
There you go. Thank everybody for joining us. As we say every week, we look forward to today when we can be back on NBC Sports Philadelphia and we can be traveling around. Your point earlier that your favorite beer is the first one you have at a new brewery is true. My favorite beer is the next one I actually have at a brewery. But again, we thank everybody for joining us. Joe Sixpack, here's to you. Have a
Cheers,
great
man.
weekend. We'll see everybody next week on What's Brewing.